Okay.
Yeah.
I'll ask this question always to people who are Hindus, and let's see what you're going to say, all right?
Yeah.
What is God?
God is who created us.
I think it's just an energy.
Yeah, it's just.
God is energy.
Yeah.
Okay. And you agree, that's it?
Yeah.
But is that what the Bhagavad Gita teaches?
Yeah.
Yes.
Where does the Bhagavad Gita say God is just energy?
It
Because
does. Basically, Bhagavad Gita is the way of life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I understand Bhagavad Gita is a way of life and tells you perspective. I've read the Vedas as well. But when it comes to the idea of God, there's no clear definition of God in Hinduism, of what God is. You have manifestations of God, you have statements like God is everything, and everything is God.
But why should you have any clear definition of God? And does the Quran also have exact definition
Yes,
of God?
of course, yes.
So it's a person.
Chapter, sorry?
So it's a person.
What do you mean by person is the question.
Like who is God according to? Yeah. Who is God according to?
Yeah, I don't know what you mean by the term person. Like we don't, it depends on what you mean by the term person. Yeah, I'll show you right now. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Sure. And by the way, Hindus do that all the time. I don't know why. I asked him what is God. He asked me what is God. I say, okay, I'll tell you what is God. But then you can tell me after I tell you, okay?
Yeah, sure.
The one, and then I'll answer your question, why do you need to know? Because there is a reason you need to know. So the one who defines himself is God, right? So here is a clear definition that Allah gives to himself. Say Allah is uniquely one. Allah is uniquely one. Allah is the eternal refugee, independent, self-sufficient. Everything depends on Him. He depends on no one. He neither beget nor is born. Doesn't have children. Doesn't have grandparents. Is not like us.
So it's a person.
And there is nothing like unto Him, which is responding to maybe what you're saying. If a person to you is something that like the creation, Allah is unlike any of the creation. This is a description that Allah gives to Himself. Now, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I don't know what you mean by person. Again, another definition here Allah gives to Himself in the Quran. Here, Allah. You can read the 255. That also gives you a definition, a clear definition. Allah, there's nothing worthy of worship except Him, the ever-living, self-sustaining, no drownness overtakes Him, nor sleep. This is the clear definition of what God is, right? Or who Allah is, right? Now you're saying, why do we need to know what God is? Because we need to know what we're worshiping. The one who made you and me, created everything, is God. Now, the day I die and the day you die, if there is an afterlife and He's going to hold us accountable for what we do, we need to know who we're dealing with. If that Creator is the one who rewards, if He's the one who punishes, if He's the one who gives provision, if He's the one who looks after the universe and has control over it, then I need to know who I'm dealing with. Imagine going to a job. I'll give you a very basic human example. Working in a company, you don't know who the boss is, you don't know nothing about the boss, but you just work in a company. You work for them. There's consequences for you working in that company, so you need to have information and knowledge about who is running the show, as they say, right? Now, the one who controls everything and the one who holds everyone accountable is the Creator. Therefore, it's very, very important to know. Why? If I don't know God, right? Let's say we don't know God, and God is a ruthless Creator, that's a hypothetical example, that will punish everything. But I just don't know. So I'll live an evil life and then I'll get an infinite amount of punishment because I don't know. If I know that that Creator, for instance, is all loving, all merciful, forgives everything, then I'll live the way I want to live because that Creator will forgive everything I do. So me knowing the Creator, me knowing who the Creator is, will reflect in my life, right? I need to know so I know how to behave in accordance towards that Creator. So it's very important that you should know. That's why I think it's essential. It's a huge problem to follow any religion that does not have a clear definition of God. Now, if it also doesn't have a clear definition of what you need to do in your day-to-day life. Another question I ask Hindus when I meet them is, how do you know right from wrong?
What?
How do you know right from wrong?
The Bhagavad Gita teaches us that.
Okay, tell me. Again, there's no clear definition there, so maybe you will give me a clear definition. What is a clear definition according to the Bhagavad Gita?
If you have read the Bhagavad Gita, then you know that there are a lot of stories.
Yes?
About, like, I don't know if you heard the Ramayana, about
Yes.
Mahabharata.
Yes.
So each and every story, like the whole story, depicts, like their actions depict
The good and evil. Yeah.
Yeah. It teaches you the morals of like what you actually have to do, what is right and what is wrong.
I would disagree. I don't want to go into detail. For example, sleeping with your brother's wife, is that wrong? According to the Bhagavad in the stories, right? When you see, no.
So due to lack of time and the fact that a lot of Hindus get very, very triggered when I go into detail explaining things that are in the Hindu scriptures, I did not go into detail in the video, but it's a must for me to mention some of the things, some of the stories because they were saying these stories are examples for us so we can get moral lessons from. So I mentioned just an example. I didn't mention any names, so I don't get anyone offended, but the purpose of this video is purely educational. So I'm going to mention some stories now. They might be very shocking for some people, and I'm going to perhaps censor some words while I'm talking about these stories. And I'll put all references for anyone who would like to check these things after the video. But it's very essential and important for us to know, if we take moral examples from these stories, what kind of stories are mentioned in Hindu scriptures in general. So for instance, a very basic example I'm going to mention, the one that I was talking about in the video. You'll find in the Shiva Purana, there is a demigod, a story of a demigod who grabs his brother's wife, essentially, and then he curses her son because the son, he expressed disapproval of such a hideous act, essentially. So he curses the son, and then he does the of his brother's wife, and you do not see any punishment. In fact, the son gets abandoned in the story. You do not see any condemnation of such behavior or act, and that's why I mentioned this example to these two ladies I was talking with. Another example is you have Ashvani Kumara. You see him a Brahmin lady. So obviously then the son gets born. The son and the woman are kicked out when she goes back to her husband because she's a married woman, and the woman turns into a stream, and then you have this Brahmin kind of that her husband gets downgraded. So you don't see a clear condemnation of such behavior. You have allegedly gods, quote unquote, gang a married woman. We're talking about Brahma, we're talking about Shiva, and we're talking about these main gods of Hinduism. You'll see them, three gods together, gang a woman. You know, I'm saying these things, and it will be crazy for some people listening, I know. But I'm going to put the text itself and references also in the screen for people to see. You have a Brahma who tries to his own daughter, essentially. And he does it, actually. He his own daughter. When I say try, all of these people that I've mentioned, they've actually committed the act. There is a theme, there's a common theme of gods, demigods, etc. committing this act of continuously. And I'm not talking about 1 or 2 or 3 demigods, I'm talking about over 10 examples I've just collected, just due to the fact that I was tired of collecting examples. I can provide more. You have, for example, Indra, who 3 separate women on 3 separate occasions, and he curses a baby again. I don't know what this idea of cursing the baby when the happens, but it's also a very common thing that happens in these stories. I'll just put a list of different quote-unquote gods with references of them committing this act. And what is the significance of me mentioning this? Now, if the gods, which is supposed to be the creators, and you'll hear in the stories, oh, you have fallen for your desire, oh, creator of the heavens and the earth. So they're saying these beings are the creators, the most powerful beings in existence, and they commit such acts. So if a Hindu is reading the scriptures, supposed to get moral teachings from some of them or from all of them, bear in mind, yes, some stories would condemn the behaviors and actions. Many other stories would not. So, for instance, you have these 3 gods the married woman, and then she would curse them to be worshipped, which makes no sense. Her curse is that they would be worshipped. So it's just, I don't want to talk about rationality much, but I'm just going to say that there is a common theme of this happening. Now, if this is your God, the person you worship in a religion, then I wouldn't be surprised if the behavior of a person who is a follower of that religion is similar to it. I mean, if the creator, if the most powerful being is doing such an act, then who can blame you as a follower of doing a similar act? Now, bear in mind, I'm not saying Hindus are doing this or Hindus are not doing this. Now, you can look at the stats and you can figure that out on your own. But it's very important to know that these are the stories that she was talking about getting moral teachings from. And if these are the gods, the most powerful beings in that religion, then I wouldn't be surprised if you say this is your source of morality, that you would reject, you wouldn't care about the definition of God or sources of morality in general. So I would invite our Hindu friends and people who are listening to this video to consider pure religion of Islam, where there is a creator who does not commit such hideous acts. He is perfect, all-knowing, all-powerful, and he is the source of morality, and he does not commit such acts of indecency. Rather, we get our divine morality from that creator, and we get our teachings from the Quran. May Allah guide us all.
When you see certain things like this happening in the stories done by the manifestations of God themselves, and it is not condemned, The scripture doesn't say this action is wrong. How could you do this? It's not there. I'm asking if me as a human being or you, anyone who's living life, how can I know if I want to do a specific action, is this action morally right or wrong? As a Hindu, how do you do that? Like, for instance,
I don't think you need a religion to decide what's right and what's wrong. I think it's very evident. Like, I think
you saying good person assumes there is right or wrong. It already assumes we know the definition. No, it assumes it assumes we know the definition of what good is. You cannot be a good person if you don't know what good is. So if you say it's subjective, as you just said,
you don't need religion to differentiate between what's
so
right.
that's what she just said about subjectivity. So you believe morality is subjective.
I do, yeah.
So then there is no morality. Because if you believe, that means you can do anything and nothing is wrong. Killing people is not wrong, stealing is not wrong, murdering is not wrong.
I believe you believe what you believe, that's it.
No, but you agree that this is the default, this is the meaning of subjective morality. So if someone were to go now murder innocent people, that's not wrong, according to that worldview. Because if morality is subjective, that means it depends on what you think and on what I think. And we could think opposite things. That means that action is not right or wrong. It just depends on what you feel in that day, you know? If you feel it's okay, it's going to be okay.
Sense of mind would know killing or taking another person's life is wrong.
I mean, it's just basic.
There are certain things.
It's just like basic. It's like basic.
There are certain things that we believe as Muslims is a part of our innate nature that Allah has given us. For instance, we would know certain aspects to be right or wrong, but that doesn't mean, sorry?
I want to know who is Allah.
The definition I was just giving you. Allah is one, created the universe, is all-powerful, does not beget nor is born, unlike any of the creation. That is who Allah is, right? And the guidance about right or wrong, which is I'm asking you about, I'm telling you these things are not present, so I'm offering you they are present in Islam as an alternative, right? And I'm not only doing that, I'm saying it's essential for them to be present. Because we cannot function as human beings and live without knowing the definitions of right or wrong. We can know some things innately, but that's not everything. You wouldn't know drinking is right or wrong innately. You wouldn't know interest in usury is right or wrong innately. You wouldn't know gambling is right or wrong innately. Society and culture can also cloud whatever you know innately. Why are there people who are in human history who kill and have no problem with killing, who steal and have no problem with stealing? And if morality is subjective, you cannot come and tell them you're wrong. You will say, you think I'm wrong, that's your subjective opinion. My subjective opinion, it's okay to do this.
That's why we have the law.
Sorry?
I said that's why we have the law.
But laws are also subjective. The law in the UK is not like the law in America. You cannot carry a gun here and walk. You can do that in America in some states. You cannot do abortion in some states, in some countries. You can do it in other states. Laws is even making a problem worse. It means morality is relative. If the country says it's okay to have slavery, is it okay to have slavery? It did throughout human history. If we go back to like 1,000 to 2,000 years, it was a part of the law. You can do slavery.
How's that like related to anything related to religion?
It's guidance. If we are created by God, if you make something like the person who made this phone, he gives you a manual of the phone. Why? He made it, he knows everything about it. So he tells you what is good for it and what is bad for it. If we don't receive guidance from God about what is right or wrong, we will live in chaos. People will hurt other people. If we don't receive guidance from God on the accountability of the actions that we do, we'll just live and do whatever we want. But once we receive guidance from God, then we have enforceability. I can say this is wrong because the one who made you and me determined that this is wrong. This is harming other people because the Creator have said, do not do that.
Guidance is also given in the Bhagavad Gita, like as you were telling. Like
No, but I was saying it's not there. That's the claim I was making. I asked you to provide me references. Where does it determine the moral aspects of specifically this is right or wrong? It does give stories, as I agree, 100%. There is stories in the Vedas, there's stories in the Bhagavad Gita, but there is no clear set definitions of what God is or of what is morally right or morally wrong. And I think that's very problematic. Just a person.
بشركم اليوم السرور